All right, great. Good evening, everyone. I think we'll try and get started, if that's all right. Welcome, everyone, to the beautiful Credit Union Place. I usually get to say beautiful, historic downtown City Hall. Welcome to our monthly council meeting of November 17th, 2025. I will call our meeting to order here on time at 6:30 p.m. The first item is the approval of the agenda. Before I call for a mover and a seconder, I'm going to put forward two amendments. The first is the removal of item 6D, which is Resolution COS 25-122 OP Amendments Climate Change. The second is to add a resolution of council re-floodplain mapping at 4A. Subsequently, 4A, as it exists on the agenda, will become 4B. 4B will become 4C. 4C will become 4D. If passed resolution, there will be consequential amendments to the new 4B. It will be stricken. 6E, which is Resolution COS 25-123, Zoning Bylaw Amendment, first reading, and 6F. Also, Resolution COS 25-124, Zoning Bylaw Amendment, first reading approval. With those amendments, I'll call for a mover and a seconder from council with respect to approving the agenda as presented. Councillor Adams, second. Councillor Cameron, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda will proceed as amended. At this point, I'll call on any member of council to declare a conflict of interest with respect to any item before you. Councillor Trenholm?
Sure. I just wanted to declare a conflict for 6C.
Thank you, Councillor. Duly noted. Councillor, can you just
sure.
speak again and speak closer into the mic? We are in a bit of an impromptu setup, but...
Sure. No, sorry about that. Oh, yeah, I can hear myself a little better now. That's great. Yeah, I wanted to declare a conflict of interest for 6C on the agenda today.
Thank you, Councillor. So at that moment, when we get to that item, just please give me a reminder if I forget, Councillor, and we'll give you a moment to step out of the room while you're in conflict. With that, I'll also take a moment. I'd like to welcome everybody. I don't have a gavel here today, so I hope everybody's well behaved, council and members of the public. Welcome. Thank you for coming in person tonight on what is a relatively miserable night outside. And without doing too much foreshadowing for the agenda tonight, I'm hoping it will not be a miserable night inside. So with that, I will move forward as just foreshadow. To the minutes. I'll first form members of Planning Board to approve the following meeting minutes of Planning Board. Planning Board meeting of October 20th, 2025, and Planning Board meeting of November 4th, 2025. Call for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Duran, Councillor Trenholm, all members of Planning Board, please indicate approval by saying aye. Any opposed? Changes, revisions? Hearing none, those minutes are adopted. For all members of council, the minutes in camera of October 20th, 2025, the monthly council meeting of October 20th, 2025, committee of the whole meeting of November 4th, 2025, the special council meeting of November 4th, 2025, and the special council meeting of November 14th, 2025. I'll call for a mover and a seconder from council to approve the said minutes. Councillor McColman, second. Councillor McDougall, any changes, revisions, comments from council? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are all carried. Thank you, council. At this point, item 4, accolades and recognition. This is the opportunity for any member of council to speak to any accolades or recognitions that they wish to recognize in the community in the previous couple of weeks. Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to do a little shout out for Ryan Reed with the Summerside Dolphins Swim Club. Ryan is, I believe, grade 9 student at SIS, and I'll just read. I couldn't do it justice, so I'll just read from their post. Ryan Reed shines at the NYAC Cup in Toronto. It was a huge weekend for 13-year-old Ryan Reed at the NYAC Cup in Toronto, racing in the very competitive 13 to 14 age group and bringing home 2 golds, 1 bronze, along with 3 provincial records and multiple Summerside Dolphin Open records. So a huge shout out to Ryan and his family.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Any other comments from members of council? I can try, yeah. I'll try not to swallow it or anything. It's this is, again, for members of the public, this is, I think, the first time we've held a council meeting in this space, so we have, we'll work around it, and I'll try and speak up as well if that's possible. Great, and just in time for the good stuff. Our new item 4A, which is a resolution to council floodplain mapping. Council asked me to do a quick little intro here before I hand it over. I don't think it comes as a surprise to anyone in this community who's been here for a number of years. In particularly the last few years, there has been a serious need for attainable housing for young families, for seniors, and for everybody in between. People have spent too much of their hard-earned income simply to keep a roof over their head. It has been a challenge for so many, and those of us who it has not been a challenge for see it every single day in all corners of our city. This council has had, I think, tremendous success in creating what is the single most important thing that we can do to try and address this housing challenge, which is to create more housing. Anyone who comes through Summerside, and I hear it all the time, people tell me, I just came into the city and I can't believe how much housing is going up. That's a good thing, so that people have a place to live, and ideally, as more housing comes onto the market, and more affordable options for them and their families. Summerside has been a leader on housing, not just in the region where we have produced more units than any other community in Atlantic Canada, but across the country. We have collectively, not just council working alone, but with other levels of government, with community members, with organizations, with developers, and everybody in between, created more affordable housing units in our city and created significant increases in the number of units available for public housing, for the people who need it the most. We started a few years ago with a housing task force with members of council and members of our community. That task force took 6 months, which is a relatively short period of time, to create a series of recommendations for this group to consider, to act on, to create more attainable housing in our community. And this group did, and they acted really, really fast. Following that, other levels of government also recognized the importance of this issue and created a series of support programs, whether they were direct funding programs for things like the Rapid Housing Initiative, which has created dozens of units for women and children fleeing domestic violence in our community, or whether it is 2% loans for development for housing units in our community. And the results have been positive. The federal government also created something called the Housing Accelerator Fund. Most of the city of Summerside was one of the first recipients of the Housing Accelerator Fund. A number of, I'd say approximately 12 of the 14 tasks set out for the city by the federal government were achieved already and met the same aims as this council had set out in our housing task force. A couple, one of which we're going to talk about here again tonight, sort of didn't sit like the rest. One was the adoption of a climate change plan, and Summerside, again, is not just a national leader, but an international leader in addressing issues of climate change. And the other was just a little line for most of us called floodplain mapping. And as we heard at the public meeting last week, and hopefully many of you heard, the floodplain mapping piece has been the last on the list, and one that probably got the least amount of attention because we were focused on housing. So tonight, it's really important to remember that just because something is on a list provided by another level of government, you can't rush policy. You can't make decisions of public policy because someone else is telling you to do it. You need to do it as a community. And so with that, I am really pleased to hear the introduction of the following resolution by Councillor McDougall, moved by Councillor McDougall, seconded by Councillor Adams. And I think along with others, are fully in support of it. So with that, I will hand it over to Councillor McDougall to read in a resolution for council on this matter. Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Whoops, I can back this one off, can I? Everybody hear me? Good. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening after last week's meeting. We said that we need to have it here. I'm glad that Council and the Mayor listened. I'd hate to see us all jammed into City Hall there this evening, so very pleased that you've been here. I've been had a lot of conversations over the past week with residents and with my fellow councillors, and been thinking about it a lot. Today, I made some calls to my fellow council and passed this resolution by them, and so I want to thank them for their input in this resolution that I'm bringing forward, and hopefully everyone will support the resolution I'm about to read. It's Resolution COS 25-128, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Adams. It's a resolution requesting the withdrawal of requirement number 7, flood zone mapping, from the Housing Accelerator Fund agreement. Whereas the City of Summerside has entered into an agreement under the Federal Housing Accelerator Fund, HAF program, to support increased housing supply, improve permitting efficiency, and advance planning reforms. And whereas requirement number 7 of the HAF agreement relating to flood zone mapping imposes technical, financial, and administrative obligations that exceeds the city's current capacity to implement within the program timelines. And whereas the City of Summerside recognizes the importance of accurate and up-to-date flood mapping, but notes that such work is traditionally coordinated through the provincial and federal agencies with specialized expertise and funding streams separate from housing-related programs. And whereas the city's available staff and financial resources are already allocated to housing-focused initiatives that directly support the core objectives of the Housing Accelerator Fund, and diverting resources to meet requirement number 7 would undermine the city's ability to deliver on its approved housing commitments. And whereas the City of Summerside remains committed to responsible land use planning, climate resilience, and hazard mitigation, but seeks flexibility in aligning these activities with the appropriate funding mechanisms and realistic timelines. Please note that the province of PEI has this covered with the CRIS project, the Climate Hazard and Risk Information System. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of Cities of Summerside hereby formally withdraw requirement number 7, flood zone mapping, from the City of Summerside obligations under the Housing Accelerator Fund agreement. And be it further resolved that the City of Summerside requests that any flood mapping or climate risk assessments be addressed through the dedicated provincial and federal programs designed for that purpose rather than through the Housing Accelerator Fund. And be it further resolved that staff be directed to transmit this resolution to the Federal Minister of Housing, as well as relevant provincial departments and the local members of Parliament and members of our Legislative Assembly. Be it further resolved that the City of Summerside reaffirms its commitment to fulfilling all remaining HAF requirements and delivering on its housing targets in accordance with this agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDougall. Resolution COS 25-128 is on the floor. I will now open the floor to any members of council for comment or question. Councillor Adams?
I won't take up too much time. I'm not sure what else I can say. People know how I feel about this. I wasn't in agreement with HAF, but as a city, we come together and we try and make the best of what the majority decides. Having said that, seeing that this was a HAF requirement, I was very happy that council could come together and use common sense to see that something was missing. This is bigger than us. As a council, we aren't equipped to say scientifically what should be happening here. It's a lot to put on our staff. And as was mentioned, there's a piece missing, and it's that provincial piece that they're beginning to work on, and would, of course, have the full support of the city helping them, providing them with any information that we can give. But at this time, it's the right thing to do to not have this part in the Accelerator Fund agreement. Many have said that they fully support us looking into it, but we can't be heavy-handed with how we go about doing it. We are on an island. We're not saying that there aren't issues, but what we're saying is that this isn't the solution. And I really appreciate everybody's patience and comments and calls and texts and emails. Like that's what we need, and it makes it very much easier for me to sit up here and represent everybody whenever you're helping me make the decision for you, because I really need to hear from you, and I did, and I very much appreciate it. So that's really all I have to say. Just wanted to thank everybody, and yeah.
It's hard with the mics because they don't all have they're sharing mics. So I think it's Councillor Duran. Did you turn on your mic? And then Councillor Trenholm, and then Councillor Cameron. All right.
Mine will be relatively quick. Just wanted to express gratitude for all of the feedback that I think we received, not only collectively, but I know we all had our individual residents get in touch with us each individually as well. So that sort of thing is absolutely required. Otherwise, we have no way of knowing, quite frankly, how our residents feel, other than holding open houses and that sort of thing. So the communication being open, I'm just so happy that everybody was able to do that. And just at the heart of it all, to me anyway, the Housing Accelerator Fund has always been presented as a way to cut the red tape and to build homes faster. And to me, the whole idea of the floodplain mapping, it just had nothing to do with building rapid housing. So, and that's the reason why I didn't, why I'm so happy to support Bruce's resolution. So, yeah, thank you. Thanks, Bruce.
Sure. No, thank you. Yeah, I really do appreciate not only the fact that so many people came out to the open house, but the manner in which people spoke. You could see that there was some passion, but there was also some fear. There was some heartfelt laughter, believe it or not, but in levity, you're able to find strength. And I really think that seeing the community come together and voice your concerns to the people who were in the room, the council, it really mattered. And I want to make sure that that people realize that your voice does matter, and it certainly has. I guess I could just echo what everyone has said so far, but I think in terms of being able to pull off what is said would have had to be done in such a short timeline, it could never have been done to that degree that it should have been done. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cameron, and then Councillor McColman.
Perfect. Thank you. I foresee a lot of redundancies in what people are going to be saying, but I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. It really goes to show how much people feel passionate about, for or against what is presented tonight. I think, like Councillor Adams said, it is very important to hear people's voices. It really helps guide us to where we need to be. And without a public open meeting with so many of you joining, I don't know that maybe we would have gotten to where we are as quickly as we did. So I just want to thank everyone who came to those meetings and again tonight to really show your support for what you truly believe in your community. It's very important for us to hear from you. And like Councillor Adams says, it does make our job a little bit easier when we can hear from residents. So thank you all so much.
Councillor McColman.
And I also do not want to be repetitious, but we do want to thank each and every person that has spoken up, sent in emails, phone calls, messages. And we reiterate that when we hear from residents good things, you can tell it really gives us that opportunity to really think through a different lens when we hear from people. So I think we would want our residents to know tonight that we value very much what you add and contribute to the conversation. For me, it's about moderation, well thought out and not rushed, because a program is tied to funding dollars. Sometimes it's very important to look at it a bit further down the road. Count the costs before a decision is made under pressure because of maybe a federal deadline date placed on a municipality to jump quickly. Sometimes when we jump too quickly, we find out the fit of the federal program does not completely work, or it has an impact on the goals that we're trying to achieve. And I believe that's what we heard very much from all of the residents that spoke up. The needs of our community, simply, we are trying to do maybe too much, too fast. There's a lot of things that we're looking at, and I think when the residents come out and speak, we do hear your comments, and I believe tonight this is one of the reasons why this resolution is coming forth. So thank you for your input, and I'm very happy to support it.
I don't know if I can pull that. I'm going to have to sit closer to Norma here, so I'll sit right next to you. Council has made their comments very clear, and I will keep it really simple. I support this resolution as presented fully. From the first time I heard of it, I didn't think that this really aligned with a housing accelerator fund, and I think it's it's a really good lesson for mayor, council, and I think staff to make sure that we really dig deeper into these types of funding agreements when we get them. This part, I think, was farther down the list and maybe overlooked because of some of the other more significant pressing issues that came in front of council in regards to zoning and so on, and the discussions around those. But it's very obvious that this, I believe, probably has the biggest impact on residents within our city in regards to housing and the funding that we're receiving, yet the amount that could be lost by residents in regards to the value of their home, insurance, mortgages, etc. So it's great to see this come forward, fully supported as presented to council.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Before we vote on, I kind of think it's a slam dunk here, and I really appreciate that. I want to put my thanks out there to staff for all the work they've done on it. There's, like we said, the mayor said too, there's all kinds of great things in the Housing Accelerator Fund, and we support the most of the things except this one here, and I really appreciate everybody's support. And I'll call for the question.
Thank you, Councillor McDougall, and all members of council. As I said at the outset, when I took on this role, I would never use the excuse of I only get to vote in the case of a tie to not share my opinion on anything. So I certainly will share it here as well. I think this is a good resolution and a good decision coming from council. To quote two of the people that I look up to, I think it's a good resolution to quote Bobby Kennedy because it is the right thing to do. And to quote Spike Lee, it's time to do the right thing. So with that, I will call for a vote from council. Resolution COS 25-128, moved by Councillor McDougall, seconded by Councillor Adams. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried. And the consequential amendments to the meeting here tonight means there will not be a staff presentation on coastal overlay, and the resolution COS 25-123 and 124 zoning bylaw amendments with respect to flood zone mapping are stricken from the record. So with that, unless everybody is here for the emergency shelter one-year overview, or even perhaps for the more exciting service level review discussion, we'll take a quick 5 minutes, and if you stick around, that'll be great. If not, have a good evening. Thanks. We'll take 5 minutes. Great. All right, we will continue. Thank you, everybody, for what was a little more than a 5-minute recess, but we'll continue with our evening. Councillor McColman's on her way, so we'll get started. She is here. She's in the room. She's on her way. With that, we'll move on to item now 4C, the shelter one-year report, and we have Jason Doyle from the province of Prince Edward Island to provide council an update. Quick little summary from me. When council approved the restricted use for the emergency shelter here in the city of Summerside, one of council's requirements was, one of the conditions was a report 12 months after operations began. And so we're looking forward to hearing from you today. So I will hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. So as mentioned, my name is Jason Doyle. I'm with the PEI Housing Corporation, and I'm here with my colleagues tonight, Ashley Gillis, the Manager of Outreach Services, and Jody Setner, the Operations Manager of the Summerside Emergency Shelter. And we're going to quickly run through a very short slide deck, and then we can open it up for any questions. But as was mentioned, as you recall back in July of 2024, we sought approval for a restricted use application to open the Summerside Emergency Shelter on Frank Mellish Drive. And we're here today to give a short update. So just a very quick overview. As mentioned, in July 2024, we sought approval from City Council to use the Frank Mellish site for the operations of the Summerside Shelter. We opened our operations on October 31st of 2024. And as a reminder, we have hours of operation from 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. Every day, 10-bed emergency shelter that's gender inclusive, is able to accommodate pets, and has accessibility support as well. We have, as mentioned, a manager of housing, or manager of operations with the Summerside Shelter that is a government employee, but we have a partnership as well with a nonprofit organization called the Equality Project to assist in the operations, day-to-day operations of the shelter. In terms of shelter utilization, which I think is probably important to everybody here today, we have supported 152 distinct clients since it opened in October of 2024. 66% of those clients are male identifying and 33% are female identifying, with 1% being identified as gender diverse. Overall, our shelter has been consistently at capacity. So we have 100% capacity since June of 2025. We do operate 10 beds. We do have the ability to increase that capacity from time to time as needed through additional beds, which the physical location can support. In terms of some of the direct outcomes for some of the shelter clients, we have had 25 distinct clients successfully housed since beginning operations, which is a very positive result. We've had 13 distinct clients directly supported in accessing health-based services in the area, and we've had great community integration with opportunities for clients to engage in activities such as cleanup events in the surrounding areas. And just quickly, the last slide here is we wanted to make a quick point about some of the key partnerships we have had and developed since opening in October 2024. Our staff and the Equality Project staff have developed a strong relationship with the Prince County Hospital. Very positive relationship there. We have an extremely good relationship with our neighbors at the Somerset Manor. Very quality open dialogue between the two, very regular check-ins, which we believe has been key to kind of the success at the shelter over the last year. City Police, the relationship with emergency services and City Police in particular, has been very positive as well for our staff and the Equality Project staff. Very intimate and daily communications with all of the emergency services, which has been critical and very important to the operation of the shelter. And that's a very quick update on where things are at with the shelter, and I will be able to answer any questions if there are any.
Councillor Trenholm?
Thank you. I'm just getting comfortable here in my chair, I guess. Just a couple of questions, that's all. It's the 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. Has there ever been any discussions on having it 24 hours?
Not at this stage, no. No conversations about the 24 hours.
Okay. Do you think there's benefit in that, or just...
Yeah, well, I think overall, we recognize that there's a need for emergency shelters, and right now our focus was to provide an overnight safe space for individuals to stay. In terms of some of the other initiatives that government has had, we have looked at increasing our supportive housing across this jurisdiction as well. We've supported the Boys and Girls Club and some of their projects, which provide some transitional housing, but also kind of 24-hour permanent supportive housing as well. So I think it's always something that needs to be kind of discussed, but as mentioned, it's not necessarily a focus for this site in particular right now.
Sure, thank you. And I'm just curious, and I don't, when you say 100% capacity since June, and I don't mean to look at the stats, but I know I went online, and is that accurate when it says the capacity of the shelter? Is that online? Because up to a certain point, it was not at full capacity, but I have not looked recently.
Yes, all our shelter data is online, and it should indicate full capacity.
Okay, all right, thanks. And I guess 13 health-based, so would that be safe to say it's likely seeking some mental health or addiction services, et cetera?
Yes, exactly. It would be a combination of different types of services, but those certainly would be part of it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks for your presentation, Jason. You sort of on Ken's comment about your capacity. You mentioned being at 100% capacity since June or July, but having the ability to have some additional beds. Is there a reason why we're not at 12, 13, 15, whatever that capacity is, and not being at 100? Are we seeing individuals decide maybe not to come because they feel it's at capacity, or how does that work, that we now add beds tonight if we're able to or not?
Yeah, so I don't feel like we have made people not come to the shelter because of that 10-bed capacity. Overall, we use kind of the approach of not necessarily turning people away if it's safe to bring people in, even if we're at that 10-bed capacity. So the building is large enough to certainly take on more than 10 clients, and the staff level there is able to take on more than 10 clients. And like I said, basically we would look at that at a case-by-case basis. If there's clients that really don't have a place to go and it's safe for us to bring them in, we would do so. And that's kind of what I mentioned, is we have that extra capacity in case it does have to bump past 10 people.
So can you just elaborate on how residents sort of come and stay at the shelter, say tonight, as opposed to like how that whole intake process works, how it's decided that somebody's got a bed tonight or tomorrow or whatever?
Yeah, I might ask Ashley to answer that question.
So individuals can book up to 30 days when they do come in and do the intake. And are you looking for that intake screening kind of clarification?
I guess I'll be upfront. My concern is that we're saying we're at capacity for such a long period of time. One would think that we're probably missing some. So if we have the ability to open 14 beds and 2 of them aren't used, I think that's a good news story if we have people in the community deciding not to use it, as opposed to people in the community just feeling that they know it's at capacity, or they're not getting, if people are booking 30 days in advance, let's say, and we're at capacity, when do we decide, like, okay, we're going to add an 11th bed for 30 days or another night? I'm trying to figure
Yep.
out, I'd rather nobody be missed in that process. If we can add additional beds,
Sure.
A bed doesn't cost anything
Right.
at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, so if individuals can call the shelter support line. That's kind of how they do that seeking of shelter. So the shelter support line is in contact with the shelter themselves to identify if there is availability, or if someone, like we talked about, is requiring to, or they need to stay in the area, they want to stay in the area, obviously within their own supports. That's where we kind of make those decisions of how we would accommodate, if that makes sense.
And I think kind of just to add on that, we don't feel like there's been many people that have left because of that capacity issue, because we have generally made space for individuals above and beyond that 10-bed capacity. So we've had people, like we have had nights where there's been 15, 18 people there. So as long as it is safe for the organization and the staff, then we will try our best to make it work.
Yeah, I think you just answered my question, so that was good to hear that, it's getting cold out there and we don't need people turned away. So, no, that sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. One, I guess we've been kind of talking about, and I'm just going to be a little bit more direct with it. Are there any plans for consistent additional beds at this time?
Currently, no, we don't have any plans to kind of go beyond that 10-bed capacity. But as I mentioned, it is something that we go beyond in order for us to provide that safe space for clients if it's needed and safe to do so.
Perfect. And then my second question is, you mentioned that the shelter is able to accommodate those with accessible needs. Are all of the rooms able to accommodate accessible needs, or only some available to accommodate accessible needs?
I'll probably ask Ashley to answer that question, and Jody is here too if she has a response to that. 2? We have 2 beds that are accessible.
Okay, that's great that there is accessibility, but I think if it's something that is funded through the province, which is paid through taxpayers' dollars, I think that we should always make sure that everything is accessible to everyone at all times. I'm just going to put that out there. So in the future, if there's plans to maybe expand or do more, I would really encourage you guys to look at complete accessibility to all rooms, so that those who maybe need accessible features aren't limited to 2 rooms or maybe 4 rooms, depending on how it goes, but rather to be able to utilize every room. Thank you.
Further questions from council? I just have a couple of brief questions. Thank you, Jason and Ashley, and of course Jody, for the work you do in our community. The quick back of the napkin math, it's 10 people a night all year, and if it's been at capacity since June, I anticipate it will continue to be at capacity. That's 3,650 nights of someone not sleeping on the street in our community, which is a lot. It's pretty significant. And there are still people sleeping on the streets in our community, or their parks, or somewhere else, or the back of a car. I have 2 questions for you. One is, what do you see as the biggest challenge at the shelter when it comes to helping get people to no longer need to use the shelter?
I think it's a tough question. I think there's each individual has unique challenges that may present them as not being ready to leave that type of housing situation. Like we see mental health, addictions, those are no surprise, the biggest challenges that most individuals that we see face at this emergency shelter. No different, not much different than the Park Street Emergency Shelter that we have in Charlottetown. Those still are the main issues that are most vulnerable are facing on the day-to-day.
I think you said in your presentation you had 13 individuals connected to mental health services of the 152 that have utilized the shelter services. In your opinion, does the shelter provide a potential opportunity to increase the level of support services for individuals seeking those in our community? Many who would be at the shelter obviously need the services of addictions and mental health supports. Can the shelter play a bigger role in getting those people the care and support and treatment that they need, recognizing that the shelter for the most part is a place to keep people warm, safe, and dry at night?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what our staff and what the Equality Project staff have done is really tried to be that connective point to the different services across the community. So our staff have spent countless hours trying to connect people with the appropriate healthcare services. We have, as I mentioned in the presentation, a very strong relationship with the Prince County Hospital. There's specific services that have been added there for the most vulnerable population, which is great to see. In terms of maybe, I'm not sure if you're referring to kind of utilizing the space of the shelter for those types of activities, but as of right now, that not necessarily would be in the plan, but more so I think the fact that our team and our partner are really working hard to connect the right people to the right services is kind of the key component there.
Great. The only last question is for you as to whether or not you think the location of the shelter is working in terms of getting people the help and support that they need, primarily being adjacent to the Prince County Hospital.
Yeah, I think the location has been a great fit, to be honest. I think the structure around the location, some of the key physical pieces have been a big help. I think I'm not sure if the proximity of the shelter to the hospital has been a huge help, but it certainly doesn't hurt because that connection there with the Prince County Hospital has been super key to connecting people to the right services. But yeah, I think overall the site itself has been quite positive.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions. I'm seeing none from council. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Jason, for the presentation and the work to support our most vulnerable community members. And Jody, I see you there too. Thank you. Next, we move on to the now item 4D, which is service level review. I think we have CAO and Director. Are you both coming up? Director Dunsford and CAO DeRosie, I think, coming up to present to council. As they do, I think I can just speak for all the council on this one. Kristen, I know that you have put a ton of work into this entire file on this project. A full deep dive into all operations of the city of Summerside. So on behalf of all of us, thank you very much. And as well, Sandra Zarby with the city as well, who put a lot. Sandra, saw you running around hanging up things on the walls and keeping track of all of it. It's been a ton of work, and to all members of the city staff, but to you two in particular, thank you. Hand it over to you both.
So we just have a very short presentation for you tonight. As you're aware, our municipality recently participated in a comprehensive service level review with an aim to identify inefficiencies, opportunities for cost savings, looking for duplication of effort between departments. So in other words, are we delivering the right service at the right level for the right cost? This review was facilitated by Dr. Gordon McIntosh and took place over 3 days. So we spent 32 hours together in October with over 50 staff providing input. Prior to the session, all departments were required to provide a listing of all the services they provide. So we had nearly 130 services identified. During the session, our facilitator had us expand on the service inventory listing to add activities involved in providing the service, the expectations of the service, what's working well, and the areas for attention. After this was completed and presented, we were asked to compile a list of service adjustments and strategic priorities. Then we developed the top 3 by city function. So when we say city function, we're talking protective services, infrastructure, community development, community services and culture, and corporate services. Plus, we also identified 2 longer-term priorities. So in our meeting package tonight, there are 2 charts provided which detail the shorter-term service adjustments and strategic priorities that were discussed at the latest Finance Committee meeting. And it is being recommended that Council accept these service adjustments and strategic priorities as outlined in the chart. Staff will report progress on a regular basis, and as adjustments and initiatives are completed, additional ones from the broader list will be incorporated. The broader list will be included in the report that is currently being developed by Gordon McIntosh. So just wondering if anybody has any questions about any of the strategic initiatives or the service adjustments.
I'm not seeing any right here, right now. I am wondering if potentially discuss this with council afterwards, if we need to set up a follow-up subsequent meeting. I know council did engage in a couple of these sessions as well, and then we can have some more full detail on what those look like and provide some further direction at a subsequent meeting. But
sure.
Does that work for City Council? Great.
Okay.
There's obviously a lot there, and it's great. It's really good. Thank you both. Okay, that was short. You're right. Thank you. With that, we move on to item 5, appointment to committees. We have 2 appointments to move forward with here tonight. We make our appointments now following our new public appointment process, which we adopted a couple of years ago, so maybe it's not that new. But first, resolution COS 25-117, Seniors Engagement and Equity Directive Public Appointments. I will hand it over to Councillor Trenholm, the chair of the SEED Committee. Councillor.
Sure, thank you. Resolution COS 25-117. It's moved by myself and seconded by my partner in crime over here, Mr. Councillor Nick Cameron. Whereas the Seniors Engagement and Equity Directive seeks to serve as a fact-finding and advisory capacity, providing recommendations to the City of Summerside Council on the needs of seniors in Summerside. And whereas the committee accepted applications for community member positions, be it resolved that Christopher Wheeler be appointed to the SEED committee. And I'm also pleased to say that Christopher Wheeler is in the attendance in the gallery today, so if he would like to raise his hand or stand. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trenholm. Resolution COS 25-117, moved by Councillor Trenholm, seconded by Councillor Cameron, is on the floor. Further comments, questions, statements from members of council? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried. Welcome to the committee. Mr. Wheeler. Next resolution is Councillor Cameron, I believe, and it is COS 25-118. I was just thinking it's great to have more desk space, and now I'm losing track of all my pages. Resolution COS 25-118, Youth Advisory Committee Public Appointments. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Your Worship. Resolution COS 25-118, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Duran. Whereas the City of Summerside established a youth advisory committee to provide forum for young people to share perspectives, offer input on municipal issues, and promote civic engagement among youth. And whereas public applications were invited for membership of the Youth Advisory Committee in accordance with the city's appointment process, and whereas Council has reviewed the applications received and wish to appoint community members who meet the criteria and demonstrate a commitment to youth leadership in and participation in municipal matters. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of City of Summerside hereby appoint the following individuals. there's 9, so bear with me for a second. Lincoln Lajoie, Kiara Bigger, Lawrence Chan, Adriana Cornish, Hannah Nguyen, Clarity Smith, Emily Liu, Kaylin Heyman, and Emily Nickerson to the Youth Advisory Committee for the 2025-2026 school year.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Resolution COS 25-118, moved by Councillor Cameron, seconded by Councillor Duran, is on the floor. Any further comments, questions, statements from members of council? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. The resolution is carried. Thank you, Councillor Cameron. And welcome aboard the crew of Youth Advisory Committee members who are already meeting. It's great. Fantastic. Now we'll move on to introduction and reading of bylaws and resolutions, carry on of a couple of resolutions from earlier, but we will start with item 6A, resolution COS 25-119, generator feasibility refinement phase 1. That's Deputy Mayor Snow to read in the resolution. Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Resolution COS 25-119, whereas Summerside Electric indicated its need for additional of 18.9 megawatt liquid fuel generation investment to meet reliability and energy security requirements within its service territory. And whereas the City of Summerside received a Dunsky Energy Group report on the plan forward for a resource plan to meet its needs of electricity capacity for Summerside Electric. And whereas the City of Summerside plans to take the required investment to the refinement stage of financial, environmental, and preliminary design for Summerside Electric for the generator asset. Be it resolved that the City of Summerside recommends the investment of up to $400,000 to do the pre-engineering and environmental work required for the generator project. This bears the recommendation of the Committee of Whole meeting of November 4th. It'll be moved by myself, and I need a seconder, Your Worship.
I saw Councillor Cameron move his hand first, so Councillor Cameron. Resolution COS 25-119, moved by Deputy Mayor Snow, seconded by Councillor Cameron, is on the floor. Further comments, questions, statements from members of council? Seeing and hearing none, before I call for a vote, I will just note, members of the public, if you are here tonight joining us in person or online and have not been at the last couple of council meetings, this has been discussed a number of times and was last discussed with a full presentation at our last Committee of the Whole meeting. Seeing and hearing no further questions, comments from council, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the resolution is carried. Thank you, Councillor Snow. Thank you, council. We'll now move on to item 6B. Resolution COS 25-120, Capital Campaign Contribution Gen XX. I'll ask Councillor McDougall, as Chair of Finance Committee, to bring the resolution forward.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a resolution here, COS 25-120, and it's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Justin Duran. Whereas Generation XX has undertaken a capital campaign to support facility improvements and program enhancements that benefit youth and the broader community, and whereas the City of Summerside recognizes the value of Generation XX contributions to community development and youth engagement, consistent with the city's strategic priorities, and whereas Generation XX has requested financial support from the city towards its capital campaign. Be it resolved that Council approves a total capital contribution of $50,000 to Generation XX in support of its capital campaign. Be it further resolved the contribution to be paid in 2 equal installments of $25,000, with payments to be made in the 2026-2027 and the 27-28 fiscal years. These payments from the City of Summerside must be applied solely towards Generation XX share of capital expenditures that was not covered by the infrastructure funding for the renovation project. This resolution is made upon the recommendation of the Finance Committee meeting held on October 23rd, 2025.
Thank you, Chair McDougall. Resolution COS 25-120, moved by Councillor McDougall, seconded by Councillor Duran, is on the floor. Further comments, questions, statements from members of council? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the resolution is carried. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Councillor. At this time, we move on to our next resolution. I'll ask Councillor Trenholm just to take a quick step out into the hallway. He has a sore back, so he's moving slow. And we'll move into Resolution COS 25-121, Official Plan Amendment Child Care Center. I'll hand it over to Chair of Planning Board, Councillor Duran. Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Resolution COS 25-121, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Cameron. Whereas the City of Summerside adopted the Summerside zoning bylaw housekeeping amendments on October 20th, 2025, which included amendments to the number of children permitted in a small child care center. And whereas this necessitated an amendment to the Summerside Official Plan, be it resolved that the Summerside Official Plan amendment to Policy 3 under subsection 5.8.1 regarding the number of children permitted in a child care center be hereby referred back to the Planning Board for review and recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Duran. Resolution COS 25-121, moved by Councillor Duran, seconded by Councillor Cameron, is on the floor. Further comments, questions, statements, members of council? Seeing and hearing none, call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the resolution is carried. Thank you, Councillor Duran. And if someone can let Councillor Trenholm, thank you. Let Councillor Trenholm back into the room.
He went bowling.
I didn't think he went that far. There he is.
Went down the water slide.
As I mentioned at the outset, with respect to the amendments made to the overall agenda, the consequential amendments to council passing the resolution with respect to floodplain mapping at 4A meant that items 6E and 6F are stricken from the council meeting agenda, and the first amendment that was put forward was removing item 6D. So 6D, E, and F, E and F no longer being relevant, D being removed at the outset. With that, we'll move on to item 6G, Resolution COS 25-125, to add names to the official street name list. Councillor Duran, as Chair of Planning Board, over to you.
Thank you again, Your Worship. Resolution COS 25-125, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Trenholm. Whereas Schedule B, Street Naming Policy of the City Subdivision and Site Development Bylaw, SS19, includes a street name list, and whereas Council wishes to add the names Dugay and Cairns to the street name list, be it resolved that Council approve the addition of the following names to the street name list: Dugay and Cairns.
Thank you, Councillor Duran. I didn't catch the second.
Councillor Trenholm.
Trenholm, great, thank you. Resolution COS 25-125, moved by Councillor Duran, seconded by Councillor Trenholm, is on the floor. Any further comments, questions, statements from members of council? Seeing and hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried. Thank you, Councillor. And with that, we move on to, we're getting through it, resolution item 6H, Resolution COS 25-126, the naming of the East-West Housing Corridor Street. I will hand this back to Chair of Planning Board, Councillor Duran, and then once it gets read in, we'll go back over how we had anticipated doing this, and then we'll figure it out.
Might be fun.
Yeah, great. Over to you, Councillor.
COS 25-126, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Cameron. Whereas the City of Summerside is a designated municipality under the Emergency 911 Act, and whereas a designated municipality is responsible for naming any street, public or private, that serves 3 or more properties, and whereas the East-West Housing Corridor consists of a new street network intended to support current and future residential growth, and whereas Council invited public input regarding the selection of street names, be it resolved that Council approve the naming of, there are 4 areas, the East-West Housing Corridor itself, Stub Road A, Stub Road B, and Stub Road C. And we have a selection of names for each of those. I can state those now, or we can get into the discussion, whatever you want to do.
Great. Well, yeah, we could go. We have a couple.
Yeah, we have a couple for one and one for a couple others. I can make it clear, I guess, when I
Sure, yeah,
read
why
them
don't you
in?
go ahead with the reading in the names, and then we'll
Yeah.
check them off against this.
So for the East-West Housing Corridor Road, we have Poppet, Happy Land, Dugay, and Cairns now as well. Ryan or Pope. For Stub Road A, we have Sunrise, Capital, and I believe the intent is to possibly speak about a third one as well, or I think there's just a mission, or that's,
Yeah, as I understand, it would be Sunrise,
Woodridge.
Capital, or any other name on the list that you just identified.
right, okay.
Poppet, Happy Land, Cairns,
yes.
Ryan, or Pope.
And Stub Road B, Hall, and Stub Road C, Cardinal. And when we speak about stub roads, those are just the future roads that are being built off of the east-west corridor.
Great, thank you, Councillor, and that was seconded by,
Councillor Cameron.
okay, I will read it in and then we'll start the process. Resolution COS 25-126, moved by Councillor Duran, seconded by Councillor Cameron, is on the floor. We will be having a discussion and voting here at Council. The process that we had discussed to try and figure this out was to, I would open the floor for any member of Council to basically indicate their preference of any of the names on the list and give any additional reasons as to why they thought that was the most appropriate name. Opportunity to be available to all members of council, at which time I will take any submitted names, I will write them down, and then we will call for a vote on each one of the names. If one name receives the majority of council votes, then that will be the name. If no name receives the majority of the votes, then we will remove the name with the fewest votes and repeat the process. So it's a little Survivor-esque, but it seemed like the most appropriate way to make it happen. We will do that first with the East-West Housing Corridor Road, and then we will follow with Stub Road A. If council agrees at the very beginning, then that's where we'll go. So I will now open the floor to any member of council who wishes to put to make a case for any one of the number of names that were identified by Councillor Duran at the outset. I have Councillor Adams, and then I'll go Councillor Duran. Councillor
Did
Adams.
you want to go first?
Do you want to go? Who wants to go first?
Okay, so just so I'm clear, we're doing East-West Housing Corridor Road first. So I had put forward Cairns as the name for this road. Reason being, I had given council a lengthy little educational piece on why it should be named this. We had a longtime councillor in the area for the city. He was also a councillor when it was Wilmot, and that would be Benny Cairns. Benny was also a bus driver who drove many people to and from school. I know ourselves, after he retired, going to and from work every day, you could always depend on him being in the window and a big wave when you'd be going by. I got looking even more into it, and the Cairns history goes far, far deeper than that. In addition to the motel that is still there, there was milk delivery by different various brothers. They had ice delivery. And this was all across the Wilmot River and into town. And there was also, oh my gosh, there was just so many things. It was really neat to. There was the bell for the city. And it wasn't just the men in the family. The women in the family were quite the entrepreneurs themselves. There was. In addition to the motel there was Wyman's guest house that was right next door, and that's and the house is still there, the big white house. And also one of the brothers at the time, I think it was CJRW, had interviewed him, and he was the oldest living member from the previous town of Wilmot. So that was sort of neat. Anyways, I can put everything online. I think I've stated my case well enough to council. In addition to Benny and all his descendants and those that came before him, I just feel that in addition to it being the farmland of the original family, it would just be, it would be a nice thing to do for people that, that came before us and had a vision for what the area could be.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. So Karen's is on the list. Councillor Drum.
Yeah, so option 2. So at October 7th committee meeting, I think that's when we had our sort of our big send-off for this item. I sort of submitted the idea of consolidating several connected road sections into a single continuous one named Pope Road, which would see Pope Road, Ryan Street, and whatever this new road ends up being under one name, which would create a single continuous east-west route from South Drive through to Water Street. Presently, there are the 3 consecutive sections of the same continuous roadway, but each of them has a different name. We have Pope Road, obviously, and then that becomes Ryan Street, and then that becomes what's now the east-west corridor. I think this can or may create unnecessary confusion for emergency responders, delivery drivers, mapping systems, visitors, residents themselves even. So I just think by consolidating these segments under one consistent name, Pope Road, that we can establish that clear and continuous roadway, which is about 4.5 kilometers. And that identity would it would be across the full corridor. It would simplify addressing and mapping systems for both residents and businesses. It would improve navigation and emergency response clarity. And it would align with modern planning and transportation standards. So while the change is practical in nature, it also touches on Summerside's history. Ryan Street was named between 1956 and 1963 in honor of Patrick Ryan, one of the town's longest-serving police officers. He was also a Boer War veteran and a dedicated community leader. He was widely respected for his community involvement, particularly his work with youth, organizing after-school fitness programs and establishing one of Summerside's first student crossing guard initiatives. So I think it's important to emphasize that removing the name Ryan Street would not remove the memory of Patrick Ryan. In fact, I think this sort of presents an opportunity for us to honor him in a more meaningful and lasting way. The province has identified the new east-west corridor as a potential location for a future school. Should that project move forward, I think it might be fitting to encourage the province to consider naming the new school Patrick Ryan Elementary School or Middle School or whatever it ends up being, or Ryan Middle School. I think such a dedication would be entirely consistent with Mr. Ryan's lifelong focus on youth, education, and safety, ensuring his name continues to be associated with the values that he represented. And should the province not be interested in naming the prospective new school, there are other ways that we can maintain the honoring of Patrick Ryan by naming a park or a trail after him, reflecting his commitment to youth fitness and recreation. Creating a youth citizenship award, which would recognize leadership, community service, or safety, or a community room, training space, naming a room in a civic or recreation facility after him, like linking his legacy of service to today's community programs. So if approved, that change would involve minimal civic address updates, affecting approximately 9 properties on the existing Ryan Street section, including Cineplex and Athena School and Glant Moving and Storage and 5 mobile homes there. So they would obviously have to change from Ryan Street to Pope Road. But anyway, I think this aims to balance practicality with respect for heritage, strengthening the city's infrastructure while ensuring that Patrick Ryan's contributions are remembered in a more prominent and appropriate way. And for the record, should council decide to go with Cairns or any other name, I would fully support it. So just wanted to add that to the list.
Thank you, Council. Any other names from Council? We're down to just 2. That's great. Okay. We've gone from 6 to 2. We're already making progress. Last chance. Okay, I will, as well, just a quick for members of the public, a number of the names that were also put forward here were voted on by members of the public. So when council engaged the public to look for names for the new East-West corridor, that's where some of these have come from. With that, Councillor Snow, you have a...
No,
All right.
I'm
I will
not
open
putting another
it.
name
I'll put the
forward,
floor
no.
to you, Councillor Snow. This will be the opportunity either to ask any questions. You could ask any question of
I do
the
have a
councillors who propose the names. Yes.
I'm wondering if, so both of these, Cairns and Pope, have been vetted through, I assume, police and so on. Have they give any feedback on their opinion on whether or not changing the entire stretch to Pope Road, is that something that will benefit police and fire services? Councillor Drawn indicated, and it makes sense what he's saying, that it could save some confusion and improve response times, et cetera. I'm just wondering if there's any actual feedback other than Councillor Drawn stating it, if there's any thing supporting that comment.
I can't speak for police or even fire because I'm not in a management role at either one. I did ask Director McDonald, sort of just, off the record, after one of our meetings, would this kind of make sense from a planning technical services department standpoint? And he just indicated that yes, it would be simpler because it would, rather than 3 names, it would be 1. So there wasn't a whole lot of explanation to that answer. It was just a simple, yeah, it would make sense. There wasn't really an argument for or against. And I mean, I guess just speaking as somebody that responds to emergency calls, it would make sense to me just typing into a GPS, knowing where I was going.
Now is the chance if you want to speak in favor or, in support or against. This is the opportunity. And then when everyone's done speaking, we'll put it to a quick vote. Councillor McDougall?
Thank you, Your Worship. I fully support Councillor Adams on the name of Cairns. I've known the family for a while, and I had, when Councillor Cairns, who was one of the first councillors, a longtime councillor of Wilmot, and was on the first city council back in '95, and he was there for a couple of terms, and I didn't really know. I knew of Benny Cairns because every time I drove by Water Street East, he had his name on the house, and that's the kind of character he was. And I had no idea really who he was other than he has his name on his house. But you know what? Those 8 years, well, I think it was 7 years because the first year was 3 years. But over those years, I became a close friend of Benny's, and he was one of those guys that would get in a room, and you could have some of the smartest people around that table arguing over something, and Benny wouldn't say a word until, okay, boys, why don't we do it this way? And so many times, that was the way we ended up doing it. He was one of those guys. And I have a lot of respect for Benny. I have a lot of respect for the family. And I think this is only fitting. And this is one of the reasons when we had the resolution on with the naming that I asked that we go to the public to get the names, because when developers come in, they have the opportunity to name their street. Well, the city is a developer in this case, and I thought it would be fitting if we went out to the public and got input on the names for the new street. So I fully support Cairns, and thank you. But good job, Justin.
Councillor McCormick, yeah.
If anybody else was going to say anything. Well, I think both Councillor Adams and Councillor Dwyron have put two good reasons as to why. I think they're both good choices, but I think personally, I also would feel that the Cairns family name would be very important in that area where they lived, where he worked, or where he did farming. There's a lot of farmland in that area, and the businesses from the family. I think they contributed a great deal, and then his work on council would really be something that I think it's our way of showing something about the heritage of the city from a family in that area. So I would be going with the Cairns, but I think the world of you, Justin.
Yeah, I'll be quick because I think everyone is covering most things. Sorry, Justin. I also feel like Karen's would be a good choice. One, for all the reasons that have already been mentioned. Two, it is a new project. It would be nice to have a new name associated with it. And I also fear that if we removed Ryan Street, that there is a chance as different councils come in that we might not have the opportunity to carry that forward, and it might get lost in the shuffle along the way. And I would hate to see that happen for someone who's given so much to our community. So I would support Karen's.
Thank you, Council. The Councillor Morrison is away, so that's 4 in support of Karen. So I don't think we need to have a vote. So the Council has already indicated their approval for Karen's, and you change your vote to Karen. So it's Karen's unanimously. Councillor Snow, Councillor Trenholm.
Yeah, I could support both. It's irrelevant at this point. I think Justin's point was a really good point, well taken, but obviously the Benny Cairns has an impact on the city lasting, and I can support that as well, so I'm all good.
Great. Thank you, Council. Then the second one that needs to be determined. Oh, Councillor Trenholm, do you put it in? Yep.
Yeah, sure. I guess just since we're all talking.
Yep.
I guess we'll go, sorry, Justin, again. Sorry, Justin. Double sorry, but yes. And I think the idea of honoring a family, and I think roots in the Summerside, I think is really important. So it's a great message. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Council. And Councillor, for the record, Councillor Ron did indicate he changed his vote, so it was unanimous. Great. Thank you, Council. The next is Stub Road A. We had a discussion, Council had a discussion about this maybe a month and a half ago. There were 3 names. One of them was not possible. The other 2 still on the table are Sunrise and Capital, as well as any other name that's on the street naming list, but we did say Poppet, Happy Land, or Dugay would be options. So I was away at that last meeting. I have no idea how you figured out the other 2. So but we got to decide. So I will we'll go through the list again, and maybe we'll just do, if anyone wants to speak to one, we'll do the same thing, and then we'll try and get it done. This would be on Stub Road A, Councillor McDougall. So the east-west housing corridor will be named as Cairns. Stub Road A is to be completed. Stub Road B is Hall. Stub Road C is Cardinal. Councillor Adams?
So the east-west housing corridor road, is it avenue, is it street? What is the?
You're asking the wrong person, but I think it is based on, I'm looking to staff here, and technical services staff have left. I don't know if it's road or avenue or street.
I believe it's street, but I'm not 100% certain to be.
I thought it was avenue.
In the resolution at the end, it says street.
Yeah.
It goes east-west. And north-south. All right, we'll confirm that, Councillor. But yeah, the important part's the first part of the name. So back to the Stub Road A. Council, the 2 names still on were Sunrise and Capital. Plus, as I said, Poppet, Happy Land, or Dugay are also on the list that went forward. Does any councillor have any recommendation? I'd start with councillors whose wards touch on the east-west corridor. Councillor
Your Worship,
McDougall?
I thought, Councillor Adams, do you have a name that you were putting on? For this, Woodridge?
Well, mine was Woodridge, but it didn't get brought forward.
Oh, it didn't get brought forward?
No.
Why
they
can't we
didn't.
vote on it?
Woodridge didn't get put on this was at the
The
last
street
two
name-
councils and meetings
The
ago?
street name committee didn't approve it.
Oh,
These are all names that are approved by the street naming committee, which is
The
Tech Services
reason
Fire.
they gave was because it sounded too much. You'll remember my big spiel about it. They said it sounded too much like wood and different ones. And then I gave a full page list of names that sound like within the city. But moving forward, I think we were going to be more cautious on our naming when we've seen so many examples. So, yeah, that's why that one didn't make the cut. I tried.
The options, again, okay, we'll write them down. Sunrise, Capital, Poppet, Happy Land, Dugay.
Is that Stub Road B?
That is Stub Road A. Stub Road B, council already decided to name Hall. Stub Road C, council already decided to name as Cardinal. So Sunrise, Capital, Poppet, Happy Land, and Dugay. Any member of council want to put forward one of those as a top choice? Councillor Duran.
What happens if nobody says anything? What, does it default to something?
I would expect that, I think we'd then, yeah, we'd be back to, again, as the developer owner. Not sure. Someone's got to decide, you guys got to decide. Councillor McColman.
Yeah, well, the one I want to still put that forward, obviously, as Woodridge. It leads into Woodridge, and Woodridge has been a big supporter of housing in our city for many, many decades, and it continues to grow. So that's the only one I can see as making sense. Some of these definitely don't make sense to me, but I'd really like that to be brought forward again and some.
I could support it as well. I don't want to spend too much time on this stuff, to be quite frank, but I could support Woodridge. I just fear that it not being on the approved list, we approve it and ends up not being on the approved list, then we're back to renaming streets and roads, and you can't open a street or a road without it being named. So I think we're in a little bit of a pickle. But I don't know if CAO has some advice on this with the naming.
Yeah, I don't think council cannot put a name of a street that's not on the street naming list. That's how the street naming list works. So you'd have to come forward to council, and if the street naming committee, again, none of council sits on there. It's fire chief, someone from technical services, that approves whether or not a name can go on the street naming list, and the street naming committee did not approve that list. So I would certainly caution council against naming a street that did not meet the requirements of the street naming committee, as frustrating as it can be from whatever the reason was, the suffix or prefix.
Just for an educational bit, this road, this Stub Road A, in the future, this is what will lead out to Reed's Corner when the province does the 5-leg roundabout at Reed's Corner. This road will go all the way from there, where it begins, through to Reed's Corner. So I think the name is important, as it's going to be a major road.
I just want to maybe clarify that like Woodridge is off the table because it was not approved, correct? I just don't want to spend, oh God, sorry. I just don't want to keep going back and forth if we're giving the same answer time and time again. So there is no way to put Woodridge back on, is what I'm hearing.
I guess, okay, I think this is a question that CAO can help as well. Like, as I said, council, we talked about Woodridge as an option. Everybody liked it, but it didn't meet the requirements of the street naming committee. So if council wants to name it Woodridge, council can certainly name it Woodridge, but recognizing that you would be doing so against the advice of fire chief and the street naming committee and not following our current process. I don't know what else to sort of tell you.
I was just looking for
Aside from that.
clarification because I'm then going to say I think Sunrise is a good name. I think it sounds nice. I feel like there's a lot of places around that have a capital road, capital drive. So I am putting Sunrise forward as a potential name.
Thank you. And I certainly hear what Councillor Carey is saying, but I think, council has talked about it with some of the points that have already been made, and I won't repeat them. I would, for my own personal preference, I would suggest Sunrise, simply because, in my opinion, one of the things that we have that are beautiful in Summerside is our sunrise and our sunset. So it's something that's very known about Summerside, and I think it would be very appropriate.
Any further names suggested by members of council? Okay, with that, I'll just call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye for the name Sunrise. Any opposed? Saying none. Sunrise. Thank you, council. This has not been the easiest process. That's on we go. So, Councillor Duran, if you would like to reread the "Be it resolved" that section of your resolution, then I will put it to the floor for call for a vote.
Be it resolved that council approved the naming of the East-West Housing Corridor Road as Cairns, Stub Road A as Sunrise, Stub Road B as Hall, Stub Road C as Cardinal.
Thank you, Councillor. Resolution COS 25-126, moved by Councillor Duran, seconded by Councillor Cameron, as amended through the debate and discussion of council, is ready for a vote. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried. Thank you, council. These darn pages. With that, we'll move to item 6I, Resolution COS 25-127, Notice of Intention to Expropriate. This is Deputy Mayor Snow. Deputy?
Thank you, Your Worship. Resolution COS 25-127. Whereas the Council for the City of Summerside has determined that it is necessary and desirable to develop a roadway connecting Water Street East to McEwing Road, known as East-West Housing Corridor, and whereas the lands currently held by the City of Summerside are insufficient to permit the necessary development of the roadway infrastructure, and whereas the City of Summerside has reached agreement with most but not all adjoining landowners respecting the compensation structure for the lands required to build the said roadway infrastructure, as well as cost sharing of the development costs, and whereas Section 188 of the Municipal Government Act, RSPEI 1988, CM-12.1 authorizes council to expropriate any land that it considers expedient for the public work or other public purpose, and whereas subsequent 1891 of the Municipal Government Act, RSPEI 1988, CM-12.1 requires that prior to expropriating any interest in land, council shall pass a resolution giving notice of its intention to expropriate land. Be it resolved that pursuant to subsection 1891 of the Municipal Government Act, RSPEI .1988 CM-12.1, Council for the City of Summerside give notice of its intention to expropriate lands within the City of Summerside as follows. A. General description of lands. The lands to be expropriated are described as follows. Part of PID number 606-905, and 809-350. All those parcels of land situate, lying, and being at Summerside in Prince County, province of Prince Edward Island, being shown and delineated as parcel R9 and parcel R10 on a plan of survey entitled Plan of Survey showing portion of Summerside East-West Connector, prepared by Locust Survey Limited on March 20th, 2025, as drawing number 24095-S01, and said lands being more particularly bounded and delineated on the map attached hereto as Schedule A. B. Nature of the interest intended to be expropriated. Council intends to expropriate the fee simple interest in the lands described herein, which includes all of the interest in the land to which the resolution relates. C. Public purpose for which the interest is required. Council requires the lands described herein to facilitate the building of the east-west housing corridor and related infrastructure. D. Survey authorization. Pursuant to Section 190 of the Municipal Government Act, RSPEI 1988, CM-12.1, Council hereby authorizes the Chief Administrative Officer or his designate to engage a land surveyor licensed under the Land Surveyors Act, RSPEI 1988, CL-3.1, and the land surveyor and any person working under the person's authority shall be permitted to enter upon the lands described herein for the purpose of surveying the land and preparing a legal description of it. E. Resolution to expropriate. Council shall vote on a resolution at its next regular scheduled public meeting on December 15th, 2025, on the issue of whether to expropriate the lands described herein. F. Statement of expropriation. Should the above described resolution to expropriate receive support of 2/3 of council members present, and after council serves the owners a certified copy of the resolution passed, all the interest in the lands described herein shall be expropriated and become vested in the city of Summerside on the resignation and the filing of the office of the Registrar of Deeds for Prince County of the said resolution to expropriate the survey plan and the legal description of the said lands. And there is a Schedule A attached that indicates the parcels. It's moved by myself, Councillor Snow, and seconded by Councillor McColman.
Thank you, Deputy Snow. Resolution COS 25-127, moved by Deputy Mayor Snow, seconded by Councillor McColman, is on the floor. Further comments, questions, statements from members of council? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried. Oh, Councillor Adams? One opposed. Sorry. The ayes have it with 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 1 nay. 6-1. Resolution is carried. Thank you, Council. With that, we move into item 7 of our meeting agenda, department reports. There had been a discussion amongst members of council to potentially read in reports. I'm not sure if you want to proceed and do that. I will leave it to each individual councillor, it being 8:20. I will do that for Mayor's report, but I will pass over to Finance Representative Councillor McDougall. Councillor.
Your Worship, due to time, these are up on the city website, and I'll forego the report from the Finance. It's there to be read if anybody wants to have a look at it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Trenholm, Community Services and Tourism.
Thank you. Likewise, I'll say the same. 2 pages of great information on what's happening with the community services, but yes, it's all in the report and online, so please, at your leisure, enjoy it.
Thank you, Councillor Trenholm. Councillor McColman, Representative for Governance, HR and Legal Services.
I agree as well, Your Worship, that it's online and people can reference there. And if they have any questions, just give a call.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Morrison, who is not here tonight, Representative for Municipal Services. Councillor Snow, I will ask you to speak on behalf of Councillor Morrison.
Yes, it's part of the package and it can be found online.
Councillor Cameron, Representative for Arts, Culture and Diversity.
I would reiterate what everyone else says, but I will encourage people to check out what is going on at Culture Summerside, because there's always lots of great, fun things going on, and there's lots coming up for the Yuletide season.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Duran, Representative for Technical Services.
I'll go the same way as my colleagues. If anybody would like it, I can send it to you or direct you how to find it yourself.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Snow, Representative for Economic Development and Growth.
It is part of the package. It can be found online.
Great, thank you. So I got to go through each one. And Representative Adams, Representative of Emergency Services and Communications. And I will just put a quick plug in for Councillor Adams. Tomorrow night, we have a next stakeholder meeting for your crime prevention community, Safer Neighborhoods.
Perfect, thank you. And also, same as everybody else, and just always a huge shout out to our emergency services who are always busy, but this time of year, seems like with our homeless population too, they get called on more often than not. So we, a big shout out to them.
Thank you, Councillor. With that, Council will adjourn our meeting for tonight and look forward to seeing everybody on, I think, December 5th is our next Committee of the Whole meeting. Thanks, Council. Have a good evening.